Welcome back to the channel. Today we are reacting to Stacey Speaks Up. Stacey Abrams have a children's book. So be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.
Book TV's live coverage of the Miami Book Fair continues now.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'd ask that you take your seat as quickly as you possibly can. Thank you. My name is Nayala Harrison. I'm an attorney at the law firm Greenberg Traurig and a long-standing volunteer here. We're grateful for Miami-Dade College and the volunteers and for all of the support of our sponsors, including the Green Family Foundation, Nicholas Children's Hospital, Amazon, the J.W. Marriott Marquis in Brickell, and all of the other sponsors. I say welcome to Miami Book Fair 41st session. If you are a first-timer to the fair, then I'd like to welcome you. If you are returning to the fair, hello again. And if you are a friend of the fair, a very special welcome. Are there any friends in the room this morning? Good to see you all. Good to see you all, and I invite you to become a friend. There are special benefits with friend membership. At the end of the session, there will be a brief Q&A. The author has pre-signed books, and so there will not be a book signing, but books have been pre-signed. At this time, I would like to ask you if you have not already silenced your cell phone for the pleasure and benefit of everybody here this morning. With that, it's my pleasure to introduce Al Dotson. Al is the CEO and managing partner of Bills & Sundberg. He has served as president and chairman of the Orangeville Committee, national chairman of 100 Black Men of America, and was appointed by President Barack Obama to serve on one of his presidential commissions. With that, I welcome Al, who will then be giving an introduction of the main folks who you are here to see this morning. Thank you.
Thank you for that amazing introduction. I see the room is full for me. I appreciate you all coming out today. I want to start by also welcoming everyone here in Miami to the 2024 Miami Book Fair here at Miami-Dade College. Now, I'm going to introduce a couple of people. I'm going to ask you to provide them with a warm Miami welcome. There will be an opportunity for you to stand and to clap. That will be your opportunity to also be on television and C-SPAN. So I want you to pay very close attention. So I'm going to start by introducing our moderator today, and her name is Meg Medina. Meg is the Library of Congress's 2023-2024 National Ambassador for Young People's Literature and the author of the Newbery Medal-winning book, Mercy Suarez Changes Gears. She is also the author and award-winning young adult novels and picture books, including Evelyn Del Rey is Moving Away, illustrated by Sonia Sanchez, Mango, Abuela and Me, illustrated by Angela Dominguez, which is a Pura Belpré Award honor book. She is the daughter of Cuban immigrants, and she lives in Richmond, Virginia. Let's give her one clap. All right. If you're going to be here, as part of the book fair, you've got to follow instructions. I said one clap. Let's try it again. Give her one clap. Perfect. Now, the next person I'm about to introduce is someone who really needs no introduction. I have a bio written here for her, but the most important part of her history is that she is a self-professed Star Trek fan. As I'm wearing my Star Trek cufflinks in honor of her, she has served in many, many, many different positions and many roles, but the most important of them was the president of United Earth in Star Trek Discovery Season 4 finale. As you know, she's also a New York Times award-winning author, and today she is here to bring all of her different roles together to talk about her new book, Stacey Speaks Up. I'm gonna move away from this podium so you can stand and give them a roaring round of applause for Meg Medina and Stacey Abrams.
Because I know it's going to happen anyway, be sure to tell me your thoughts about Stacey Abrams in the comments. But please tell me why you have those thoughts.
Are we already on? Oh, yes, we are. Yes. Well, this is an honor for me, I have to tell you.
Thank you.
Oh, good morning, everybody. I'm so glad you're here today. So we're going to talk for about 30 minutes. We're going to talk about our lives as writers. We're going to dig into Stacey's new book, Stacey Speaks Up. And then there'll be a little bit of time at the end for questions. Sounds good? Perfect.
Meg, can I interrupt before we get started?
Yes.
So you guys are awesome, but you're going to annoy each other in about 3 minutes because you have these little miniature computers that you're using as cameras. So Meg and I are going to stand in 3 spots on the stage. Y'all going to take all the pictures you want, and the phones are going to go in laps, and our listening ears are coming on, okay?
Oh, can we pose?
Please also let me know in the comments if you have ever met Stacey Abrams. If you have, can you paint me a picture on what that experience was like? Also, if you've never met her but would like to meet her, let me know that as well.
I'm stealing that trick forever.
Have at it.
Okay. Don't you want to hear like the first couple of pages in Stacey's voice? Okay, just a couple of pages. Can I give you this? And I already pre-opened it to the opening page.
And my reading glasses are stuck in my hair.
Okay. Here we go.
Mr. Dexter's class excitedly lined up. The whole school had voted on the special lunch they'd get at the end of each week. There was a tie between pizza and tacos, and the entire second grade voted for French fries. So Principal Howard made a compromise with Taco Pizza Friday. This was Stacey's favorite part of the week. After Adventure Day in the library, she always sat with her best friend, Julie. In the cafeteria, Stacey laughed at Julie's knock-knock joke. Zivko tried to balance his tray on his head. Standing in line to pay, Stacey heard a boy in front of her whisper, "I don't have any lunch money today." "I'm sorry, but the rules are the rules," the cashier explained. "I have to take the tray back." Frozen, Stacey watched as the boy walked away without any food. Suddenly, she wasn't hungry anymore.
Thank you. And that's a great place to stop. So I'm gonna dive in first, like on our lives as writers, because you know, when I started writing, I was given the advice, which I didn't follow, which was stick to one age group and write there. And it seemed I never was able to follow that advice, and you for sure have not followed that advice. In fact, on your website, this was a quote that just resonated so deeply with me. "A lot of folks have told me to pick a lane and stay in it, but I see the world as a highway, and I'm always traveling in the same direction forward. My destination is telling stories, shaping vision, and building power. It all comes back to the values my parents taught me and my personal mantra, to be curious, to solve problems, and do good." I love that sentiment, and I want to ask you, what is it about writing for children that fits into that mantra of being curious, solving problems, and doing good?
Thank you. So I grew up the daughter of a librarian. My mom was a research librarian. Yes.
Librarians in the house?
Exactly. So my mom was a research librarian with a specialty in children's literature. My dad was a shipyard worker, but my father is dyslexic. Loves reading, but it is incredibly difficult because he went without being diagnosed with dyslexia until he was in his 30s. He grew up in segregated Mississippi in the 1950s, and they just simply dismissed his capacity to learn. And so to have a librarian mother and a dyslexic father who was functionally illiterate until he was in his adult years meant that I grew up understanding not only the beauty of reading, but the importance of storytelling. And sometimes we conflate those and we think they're the same things. But what my mother really wanted us to understand was that there was knowledge to be found in those pages. And what my father instilled in us was that there was beauty in how you found the story. When I think about children and how I grew up, I learned so much more about the world that I was a part of and the world I wasn't allowed to see because of stories. And by being able to write for children, it is, as you know, it is the most exacting writing possible. With adults, you can meander for about 200 pages and finally get to the point. Children want the answer now. They want to be entertained, and they are brutal critics. If you've gotten it wrong, you will know very quickly. And so being able to attack a story and give information, but also give pathos and ethic to the stories you're telling, for children, for me, is the most exquisite approach to writing. And so when I think about curiosity, I always try to find a point into the story where there's something to be learned, either about myself or the world around me. I try to solve problems. I don't want the stories to just be there. I want them to give children a tool, because our kids are experiencing the same world we are. And too often that world seems big and scary and mystifying. And so I want to reduce it down to give them the ability to solve their problems in their own way and in their own time. And then to do good for me is always about making sure that by the end of the book, my character or the child reading the book feels that they can do something to improve the world they're a part of.
Tell me in the comments, out of all the books that you possibly read to your kid or your parent read to you, which was your favorite book and why?
Because the most powerful place for a child to be is not to be overwhelmed by the world, but to see themselves as part of the world and therefore as part of a solution to the world they're in. And that's what I try to do in my books.
You are so right about kids, and also just writing the world as it is for them, as they inhabit it, and getting to the point fast. Boy, they do write, don't they? And they tell us. So I love origin stories in books, and I love. So Stacey Speaks Up is part of a trilogy so far. You have 3 books in the series. The other ones are Stacey's Extraordinary Words and Stacey's Remarkable Books. And there's also a really cute picture of Stacey as a little girl in the back. And I saw those ribbons in your hair. I said, I know those ribbons. I've worn them. They're like yarny.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, I know those. So when you were thinking about this book, did you envision the series? Did you envision it as a series? Did you originate this idea, or did your publisher say, Stacey, you're so good at this, at issues and so on? Like, which way did it happen? Did you come with the idea, or did they come to you with the idea?
So in 2018, I applied for this job and didn't get it. And suddenly a lot of people wanted to know who I was. I'm like, it's a minute late, but okay, thank you. And while I'd written romantic suspense for many years, I was approached, my agent was approached with the idea of me writing a children's book. And so I wanted to think about what story resonated for me most. And the other conversation I was having was that people were asking, like, why wasn't I, despondent? Because it was a bit of a public race, and it didn't work out well. And there was meanness around the way that campaign was handled. And so there were all these parts to it. And so when I was asked to write a children's book, I wanted to think about, what did I need to know in that moment? And in that moment, it was how to get to the next moment, that losing, and this may not resonate with anyone in here, but losing isn't permanent. And it's not even fatal, and that sometimes when we don't get the thing we want the most, and when it feels the most dire, that's the moment where we have to figure out what's next.
Go in the comments and let me know some of the things that you want most in life. And also, what do you think your kids want most in life?
And so the very first book, Stacey's Extraordinary Words, was about my first big public loss, which was my second grade spelling bee. Who knew chocolate had 2 O's? Like, it doesn't make any sense. I don't relive that trauma exactly, but so Stacey is in a spelling bee, so that was the first one. And then the second book came about because when I was asked to write the second, we were in the midst of this conversation about identity. Whose stories mattered, whose stories could be told. I know you guys in Florida know nothing about that issue. And so I wanted to write a story, one that celebrates libraries and celebrates librarians, but also celebrates how our stories tie us together. And so that was based on one of my dear friends in elementary school. And so for this one, it was, again, a question of what was resonating for me and what challenges were children facing. They're hearing about war and horrible things in the world, but what felt most real and accessible. And so this one really came about because when I thought about what challenge and what tensions do children face, but what is a universal experience, it's
Now, let me know, what challenges do you think you faced most as a kid, and what challenges do your kid face?
lunchtime.
Yeah.
And so let's tell a story about where lunchtime becomes a moment not only for learning, but for action.
Yeah, so that leads to my next thought, which is, school lunch, as you said, is a daily experience. And a quote from the book that her teacher tells her when she notices that one of her classmates does not have access to lunch is, "We do have a free lunch program, but some children don't qualify," the teacher explains to Stacey. "It's complicated." So we often think in this country that we have a free lunch program that covers everybody, right? But, I'm recently aware that there are several states experimenting with a free meals program that would go further because it is complicated and there are people who fall through the cracks. So who does fall through the cracks in the current programs the way that Stacey witnesses? And what kind of changes do you think would help in that?
We have We have a food system in this country that's designed to fail. It's designed to fail our children. It's designed to fail our families. In a nation of excess, not just plenty, but of excess, we have a hunger problem where one out of every 8 children in my home state, and it's true for most of the South, goes hungry every day. And that hunger isn't precipitated simply by the visible poverty we're used to seeing. It's whether or not a family is paying 3 times their income for housing, and on the scale, they look like they're doing okay, but they can't afford lunch. And each state sets their own programs, and within each state, each school district does. You've got states like Minnesota that have adopted universal free lunch. So no matter who you are, you get that lunch. You've got states like, yes, absolutely. You have states like Georgia and Florida that refused money to pay for school lunches for kids during the summer. It's called the Sunbucks program. And it's not extra money. There's no additional cost to the state. The money's already there. You just have to accept it. And so a lot of this is ideological. There are people who do not believe that children deserve to eat if their parents can't afford to pay for it. And that is a level of meanness that I do not understand and I cannot countenance.
Let me know in the comments, do you think that you are one of those people that feel that kids don't deserve to eat if their parents can't afford it? And if you are or aren't, do you know people who feel that way, who think that way?
And if you want to learn more about this, I actually have a podcast called Assembly Required, and just this week I had Tom Colicchio as our guest talking about our food insecurity system and what we should be doing. But when it comes to school lunches, children going hungry is not just about the pain that child feels. It lowers their likelihood of being able to learn. Hungry children cannot learn. Just think about how hangry you get when you're 5 minutes away from lunch. Imagine being a 6-year-old who relies on school lunch as maybe your only meal of the day. But you also have families that are generally economically secure, but are on that edge. And we are so used to thinking that there is a racial or economic demography that is relegated to certain parts of our community. Hunger exists everywhere. And so our responsibility is, one, to solve the immediate issue of school hunger. And I encourage folks, at the end of the book, we have a list of resources. Feeding America and No Child Hungry are both amazing organizations. Local food banks are incredibly supportive and important. But you need to ask, what's the policy in your school system? We presume that there is universality. There is not. And we often don't know there's a problem until we ask. And so we have the responsibility to ask our school boards, what's your policy? Ask, and you don't have to have a child in the school system. Raise your hand if you pay property taxes. Then you are paying for the system. And if you didn't raise your hand, if you live inside, you are paying property taxes. It's just called rent. We are all responsible, and therefore we all have both the obligation and the opportunity to insert ourselves into this conversation. If you work at a business or own a business, hungry children cost you money because those are children who are not getting what they need and therefore not growing into the workforce that we need. Hunger, solving the problem of hunger, is one of the most effective ways to expand and secure our country, because healthy, well-fed children learn better, they are better behaved, they are more engaged, and they become the people that we need them to be as adults.
Okay, let's prove that in the comments. Let me know, do you feel differently compared to when you're hungry over when you're not hungry?
Sure. So, as a follow-up to that, you mentioned inserting yourself into the conversation, which is exactly what Stacey finds difficult. So, Stacey's reluctant to speak up at first. In fact, she tries to address the wrong sort of non-verbally. And I'm guessing that adults do the same thing, right? We're afraid to stand up, even in our families sometimes, or in our own communities, to say what we think about an issue. She tries to address the wrong with a petition, but eventually she finds out, as we all probably will, that there's no going around it, that you do have to find your voice. So why do you think it's so important to encourage children to find their voice, and how can we do it?
So I was not shy. I was reserved as a kid. I just had, I didn't like everybody, so I didn't see why I had to talk to them all. But I didn't like making mistakes in public, and that was one big issue. So I would often try to find ways around it. The second book where I talk about my friend Julie, she and I became friends because Julie was very, very tiny. Her family, she was a Vietnamese refugee who came to Gulfport, Mississippi, and bullies were picking on her. I wasn't going to fight anybody because I wasn't good at it, but I was taller than everyone, so I would just stand in front of her. So that was my first experiment with nonverbal protectiveness. So it only worked a couple of times. And then I realized they could just push you over, and then you're both down. But what I took from that is that we often do start with what's the least confrontational way we can engage. And that's okay. It's a point of entry. And I wanted children to see that it's okay to try to start with the smaller thing or the thing that's the least frightening. But that's not always going to be the answer. And so then the next stage was that she engaged her friends. Sometimes it doesn't have to be your voice alone. We are louder when we're together. So how do you bring your family, your friends, your neighbors together? But ultimately, sometimes your unique capacity to draw attention is your tool. And we have to decide which is more important, our fear or our success. And so for me, it was really important for Stacey to understand that her getting over her fear meant that she could create success for others. And often we think that if we don't get the prize, then it wasn't worth the pain. And I wanted her to understand that sometimes you don't get the prize, but you get the progress. You create space for that person who no one ever saw. And so Gabe, the kid that she's helping, by standing there and speaking up, or Grayson, by standing there and speaking up, she created space for Grayson to think that he too could speak up. And I think that's the most important note for children, that our individual experiences are not just ours alone. Sometimes they're the experiences that galvanize and create opportunity for the next person. And you never know who's watching you, but you also never know who needs you. And so sometimes we can't wait to be asked. We have to speak up anyway. And the worst that can happen is that nobody listens. And how is that different than the day before?
Right. And very true, I think, for authors. Right now we're facing so many moments of pushback. I'm sure you have for your books, I have for mine. So that notion of sticking together, helping each other out, standing up for librarians, for teachers, for kids' right to read,
Yes.
I think is essential. Now, my friends.
You can clap for that. That was really important.
Yeah.
And she does an amazing job of making that so. Thank you.
It has been beautiful to travel the nation and meet the nation's children. It's just been the honor of a lifetime. But I have some fun questions for you that came from the audience, so I'm going to share them. This is from Camelia, who's 6. So Camelia says, how did you become an author?
Hi, Camelia.
Hola, Camelia. How did you become an author?
So I used to tell stories, and when you're a little kid and you tell stories, sometimes adults don't believe you. But if you learn to write them down, then they're very amazed. And so I became a writer. I became an author because I loved telling stories and I liked writing them down. I love words. I think words are so much fun. And so I used to look for new and different words and finding ways to put them into stories. I have 5 brothers and sisters. And so I spent a lot of time reading with my younger brothers and sisters, or reading stories that my big sister would give me to read. And so I became a writer because there weren't always stories that looked like me. And my first few books were really about being able to write stories about people who had my life, but I never got to read about my life. I never got to see people who looked like me or who came from where I came from. And so the other reason I became an author was to be able to tell the stories that were like me and maybe what I wanted to be, and I could have adventures, and I could try new things, and I could be curious and learn new things. And as long as I wrote them down, nobody called me a liar.
That's a beautiful part of writing, isn't it? We get to be professional liars and we just make up anything we want. It's just fabulous. Okay, I have here someone who is a fan of White Justice Sleeps. And they want to know, are you trying to turn that into a TV show?
Okay, so 2 things. One, thank you for reading While Justice Sleeps, the beginning of the Avery Keene series. Thank you. She actually has a second book called Rogue Justice, and a third book coming out next year called Coded Justice. And yes, my mission in life is to make it a television show because I love TV. And so we are in the process of trying to do so. We've got a production partner, and Hollywood takes longer than writing a book. So it'll be out hopefully sometime in my lifetime. But yes, I want to see Avery and her friends and her antagonists all come to life on the big screen. So,
Yeah.
or the little screen.
The TV thing is rough, I know. It's the same thing, but I love that you love TV. One of the conversations I've had with parents across the country has been like it doesn't have to be an either or of screen and books. Like in kids' lives today, they both have to exist. I'm also a TV freak, so. But here's another question. Okay. And no pressure because I'm sitting right next to you, but what is your favorite kids' book, Stacey Abrams?
Well, I'm going to have you tell me what it should be. I'm going to tell you what it has been.
Okay.
So for picture books, it was Make Way for Ducklings, because I have 5 brothers and sisters, and we all used to look like Make Way for Ducklings when we go with my parents. And then my favorite middle school book was The Phantom Toll Booth, about the fight between math and words. And I just thought that was the most cool. Like, Norton Juster was awesome. So those are my 2 favorites.
Oh,
But what's my 3rd favorite book?
Anything by Meg Medina.
Yeah, so give us a
Okay,
name.
Mercy Suarez Changes Gears.
There you go. That's
the
my
one.
3rd
Thank
favorite
you.
book.
Thank you. My daughter loved Phantom Toll Booth. I was a fan of Charlotte's Web. Yeah, you see, I know that friendship thing.
Say, my older sister read that and told me the whole story, so it wasn't as much fun. She had.
Are they all bookish? Also, your siblings?
We have a book club. Oh yeah,
A sibling book club?
We have a sibling book club that we will not let my parents in.
Tell me something that's a little bit different between you and your siblings that you feel or you might know that other siblings don't participate in. Like with Stacey Abrams, she have a book club with her siblings. And also, list off some of your favorite books in the comments.
And we have rules like if you pick a book and it's dumb, you get pushed out of the rotation after a while. So yeah, you've got to be really good about your book choices. But yeah, we've had it. We have a younger brother who's faced some challenges, and we created the book club as one of the ways to help him sort of reconnect. And we've kept it going for about a decade.
I love that idea. That is really a good one for those of you.
But you learn way too much about your siblings when you do a book club together. So just be really sure you want to know them this well.
Okay, this is from Soraya Palmer. And Soraya wants to know, what helps you to stay motivated and hopeful with all the meanness in the world?
So it's hard because you don't know why people are being mean, but sometimes you don't know why you're being mean. And what I try to do is not take people at their word, but at their heart. If you take people at their word, people say mean things, but watch what they do when no one else is paying attention. But I also don't lean on other people. Hope is important, but I focus on determination. And that's what my motivation is. I see the world that I want. I know what the world could look like if we did the right thing. And so I can either get distracted by when it doesn't happen, or I can remain focused on what I can do to make it so. Anyone who got the Star Trek reference there. But it's about being determined and not letting yourself be distracted by not getting the thing you wanted when you wanted it, not winning the election that you thought you were going to win, not getting the policies, or worse, seeing people who are mean and who don't have good hearts make decisions for you. they want you to give in. They want you to give up. It is much easier to dominate someone who won't fight back. It is much easier to take over a system that others don't value, or when they relinquish control because it's hard. My approach is to be determined. I am determined that we are going to have more, that we are going to be more, that we are going to protect each other. And that determination means that not getting the thing I want in the way that I wanted it at the time I thought I might get it does not exempt me from the responsibility to try again. And that trying again is what we have to do every single time.
Penny wants to know, Stacey, why did you pick this path?
As I said, so my mom once said, I was about 14, I was doing a bunch of different things. And she said, Stacey, you don't want to be a jack of all trades and a master of none. What she was saying was pick something because I'm tired. What I heard was try everything and try to be good at it. Communication is important. So the path I've picked, and that's why I talk about the freeway, the highway, my path is forward. And that means I look for the things that I can do to make progress where I am and to fill in the gaps that I see. So I start businesses and nonprofits, and I run for office, and I write books. And there are people who say, well, you just need to pick one thing, and if you pick that one thing, you could be great at it. And that's true for some people. But for me, telling stories is one way of helping people see the world. Running for office is another way. Starting a business that tries to do well and do good is another way. We all contain multitudes. And my mission is to try to leverage as much of myself as I can.
Ooh, I can understand exactly what she's saying. I was in that same situation many times. You know, my wife, my mother, sisters, family members, cousins, all of them used to always tell me to stay focused on one thing. But when I do that, I get bored. That's why, you know, I have to have multiple, my mind has to be focused on multiple things. You know, I'm currently writing like 5 or 6 books at one time. If I focus just on one, I will probably lose my mind. You know, this YouTube channel, I love it. And that's the reason why I have 4 different YouTube channels under the same niche, because my mind is going in many different directions at one time. If I focus just on one, no. So please let me know in the comments, are you anything like that? And if you're not, that's just fine. But if you know people that are, please explain it to me.
For as long as I can, for as many as I can, because eventually I'm going to stop. Something's going to make it end, but it's not going to be my lack of ambition or my lack of intention, and it's not going to be someone else saying, I don't want you to do it. The path I pick is not about a title or a way of behaving. It is about a direction. My direction is forward. And if that is the direction, then my responsibility is to do anything I can with the skills that I've been given and with the grace that the world has given me and that my faith tradition has taught me. My job is to do as much as I can to keep moving us forward.
Because we started our conversation about a children's book, we've just, had an election, and I want to know, what do we say to children right now?
And this is not just because this is the book I wrote. The reason I wrote Stacey Speaks Up in this moment is that while the election is one of the proof points of challenge, it is not the only one. We live in an increasingly complicated world where our ability to hide from it is disappearing because of those screens, because of those phones. We are overwhelmed with information. When you and I were growing up, we had 3 people who told us what the news was. And if you were lucky and you got PBS, you heard from Jim Lehrer and you heard from McNeil Lehrer. But that was it. So we all had the same reality. We might decide to do different things with it, but we all got the same information. Now you can curate your own reality. And for children, they don't have the capacity to know how to discern which of those realities they will have to live with. But they have their own lived experiences too. And I wrote Stacey Speaks Up because I want us to remember that the most effective weapon to take away our choice is silence. That the most effective way to tell us that we don't matter is for people not to listen. And I want children to know in this moment that can feel so hard and so cold that their voices matter, that their intentions matter, that their truth matters, and that they have the ability to build community. You don't have to wait for an adult to say yes. You don't have to wait for someone to give you permission. Your job is to be a good person and to try to share that goodness with others and to be there for people who don't know yet that they have the right to expect more. And if we speak up, election or no, we don't cease to be citizens when the person we want doesn't win an election. We don't cease to be relevant because we don't get the things we want. We exist in between elections. Those are roadmap, those are markers. That's not the answer. And so our job is to speak up, to demand what we want, to insist on the world we think we should have, to do so not because we lost, but because we know that there's another day coming, and if we keep doing the work, we will get the work we need.
So my friends, you are a gift to children and a gift to this nation, and thank you so much for the service to children's literature and to the country.
Thank you, Megan.
A hand for Stacey Abrams, please. Yeah.
Okay, so please let me know in the comments what you think about this. This is Stacey Abrams, and her book is Stacey Speaks Up. I will be sure to have it in the description box below. So please tell me your thoughts about it, as well as like, share, comment, and don't forget to watch more videos.